Before we knew a Marvin Gaye, a Stevie Wonder, or a Diana Ross, there was Mary Wells. In the early 60s, Mary Wells, she was Motown's biggest female star. She became the symbol of the Motown sound for women. And most importantly, she played a huge role in making Motown become so big. Now, if you made it this far, go ahead and leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So without further ado, let's cue that intro. Born Mary Esther Wells on May 13, 1943 in Detroit, Michigan, to Geneva Campbell Wells, who worked as a house cleaner, and her father Arthur, who was absent after her birth. Mary, she was the youngest of three, and at the age of 2, she contracted spinal meningitis. Due to this, she struggled with partial blindness and deafness in one ear, also being temporarily paralyzed. At the age of 10, she would contract tuberculosis. Now, Detroit at this time was the 4th largest city in America, where jobs was thriving. But even though jobs was thriving, blacks that was forced to live in the slums of Detroit. Now, growing up, well, she stayed in a poverty neighborhood where the poorest of the poor stayed, called a black bottom. Now, all those times in the hospital, Wells, she was watching musical plays. And while she was watching this, she saw people were singing and making other people feel happy. And it was that moment when she decided that she wanted to sing. And at a young age, well, she started to sing to help cope with the pain she experienced. Like many families at this time, well, she was part of a church family. She even participated in her choir. Now, Wells, her voice was so powerful at the age of 10. She went from singing in her church choir to singing in nightclubs. By the age of 12, she was helping her mom work to bring in extra money. As she stated, she hated seeing her mama work so hard for so little pay. Well, she would attend Northwestern High School. Now, this is the high school that was attended by Detroit legends like Melvin Franklin, Otis Williams, Richard Street, and Florence Ballard, to name a few. In this high school, well, she had her eyes set on becoming a scientist. But after hearing about the success of some local singers like Jackie Wilson and the Miracles, she changed her mind and she wanted to become a singer-songwriter. In 1958, a then 15-year-old Mary Wells had approached Berry Gordy at the Detroit 20 Grand Club with a song that she had wrote for Jackie Wilson. Now, she went to Gordy because she knew about the working relationship that the duo had. And Gordy, he was tired at this point. He was probably tired for being approached by individuals who have no talent. He would have Wells sing the song in front of him. And man, she would snatch her souls with her vocals. By the time Wells turned 17 and graduated high school, Gordy, he took her to Detroit United Sound System to record the song. Now, after 22 takes, Gordy, he signed Wells to Motown in 1960. This song was released in September of 1960 and it is known as Bye Bye Baby. This song will reach number 8 on the US Billboard R&B charts and number 45 on the US Billboard Hot 100 charts. Now, Wells, her early work was a rougher R&B sound. And Wells, she became the first Motown artist to have a top 40 hit in June of 1961 with the song I Don't Want to Take a Chance that was released. And this song was written by William Mickey Stevenson. The song reached number 9 on the US Billboard R&B charts and number 33 on the US Billboard Hot 100 charts. With this song, it would become the 3rd national release song by Motown to reach the top 40 after Money, That's What I Want by Barrett Strong and Shop Around by the Miracles. In November of 1961, Wells, she would debut her album titled Bye Bye Baby, I Don't Want to Take a Chance. While Wells was gaining some success, Motown would pair up another musician named Herman Griffin to basically watch over her while she toured. Now, watching over Mary, the two began falling for each other, and in 1961, the two would get married while both of them were still teenagers. Now, Motown was building up Wells as the first lady of Motown. In fact, Mary, she is the third lady of Motown, coming behind Claudette Rogers of The Miracles, who was called by the same name by Berry Gordy. And in 1959, Motown had signed gospel blues singer Maple John, who Motown also used the same name for. Now, even though Wells isn't the first lady of Motown, she's the first female solo artist to see success, making her the first lady of Motown with a hit. Berry Gordy would pair Smokey Robinson up with Wells to work on her second album, which would lead to major success. The first single, With the Touch of Robinson, became Wells' first hit song, and the song was The One Who Really Loves You. This song had reached number 2 on the US Billboard R&B charts and number 8 on the US Billboard Hot 100 charts. July 17, 1962, Wells, she released her second single with You Beat Me to the Punch. Now, this song reached number 1 on the US Billboard R&B charts and number 9 on the US Billboard Hot 100 charts. The song would help Wells become the first Motown star to receive a Grammy nomination. In June of 1962, Wells, she released her second album titled The One Who Really Loved You. This album was mistakenly cited as Motown's first top 10 LP, but it was mistaken for the single with the same name. Now, Motown's first top 10 LP was the Supremes album Where the Love Go that was released in 1965. October 29, 1962, Wells' third consecutive single was released to hit the top 10 charts. This song was called Two Lovers. This song had reached number 1 on the Billboard R&B charts and number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. Wells became the first female solo artist on Motown to have 3 consistent hits reach the top 10 charts. She was simply on fire at this point in her career. This song would sell over 1 million copies, and as a result, she was given a gold disc for the music recording certification. Now, Motown didn't register with the RIAA until the 70s, so a lot of early Motown artists don't have any gold or platinum records because of this. Motown recognized her success, and in 1962, they was planning the first Motown Review Tour, which was built around her as a headline act. In 1963, she would release the single Laughing Boy, and this song would reach number 6 on the Billboard R&B charts and number 15 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. Now, this song had broke the consistent run of Wells of her singles reaching the top 10. This song is still considered a classic to this day. January 31st, 1963, Wells' third album was released, titled Two Lovers and Other Greatest Hits. This album reached number 49 on the US Billboard Top 200 charts. Also in 1963, the relationship between Griffin and Wells began to get rocky. It was said that Griffin was controlling, among other things. Plus, with the two being so young, still learning about each other and becoming young adults, things just wasn't working. The two would divorce that same year, but remain friends, and Griffin remained her advisor and was still part of her travel team. In 1964, Wells, she would record her biggest hit, and it was released on March 13, 1964. This hit will be known as My Guy. This song reached number 1 on the US Billboard R&B charts and number 1 on the US Billboard Hot 100 charts, also reaching number 23 on the UK charts. This song will become Wells' second $1 million single, earning her another gold disc. Now, during this time in the 60s, this was the Beatles' decade. They had 12 songs on the Hot 100 charts, plus owning spots 1 through 5 until Mary released My Guy. After this, she gained the nickname The Lady Who Dethroned the Beatles, also being known as the Beatles' favorite singer. The group, they would invite Mary on their tour. Now overseas, the UK, they showed Mary so much love. Now, while she was on tour, she began hearing rumors on how big her song was and how much money was behind it. But Mary, she didn't see any difference. The Supremes, they was dropping singles, but they all failed. Now, Griffin was in Mary's ear, about Motown telling her that she was bigger than Motown, and the fact that Motown was using her money to promote other songs from other groups like the Supremes. Now, to build on the success of My God, Motown, they would pair Wells up with Marvin Gaye for the album Together. This album would reach number 42 on the US Billboard Top 200 charts. Now it's time for a fun fact. Did you know around this time it was rumored that Mary and Marvin was messing around with each other, but simply that wasn't true? After Griffin, along with a lot of other people, was in Wells' ear about leaving Motown, her mind was already made up. When Gordy approached Wells to renegotiate her contract and she told him that she wanted a release, it took Gordy by shock. I mean, she is at the top of her career, and her wanting her release was unheard of at this time. Motown, they would keep Wells out of the studio by filing a lawsuit. At Motown, they invested a lot into Wells, and with her wanting to leave the label, that would leave Motown without a top female star. This pretty much explains why Diana Ross was getting pushed so hard during this time. Motown, they had learned what worked with Wells and what didn't work and applied them to Diana Ross, which explains why when Wells left Motown, Diana Ross shortly became Motown's biggest female star. Well, she was looking to gain a larger share of her royalties. Now, shortly after, her lawyers was found a clause in her contract that was result in Motown granting her release. In 1965, the court, they were ruling in favor and ordered Motown to pay her for her royalties. But in this release, it was stipulations that was set. Mainly, she wouldn't be able to receive any royalties from her work after she leave the label. And she can't use her likeness to promote herself in the future. Basically, signing this, she had signed away her freedom. In 1964, she had signed a $200,000 contract with 20th Century Fox Records. Now that's a $1.8 million contract in today's money. Now Fox, they promised Wells opportunities to appear in movies alongside a bigger contract. Now to Mary, this was great business, but things started off rocky. The first couple of months, she was bedridden for several weeks due to the disease that she had caught when she was 10 years old. With Motown keeping her out of the studio with that lawsuit and now being bedridden for several weeks, the anticipation for another Wells single was very overdue. It was also rumored that Motown had threatened to sue radio stations for playing Wells' music. Now that's a rumor, but on the outside looking in, it looked like Wells, she had left a black label for a white one, which could have played a part into why her singles with Fox had failed. Now after 2 unsuccessful albums on the Fox, Wells, she had asked for her release in 1966. In that same year, she was signed to Atco Records. That same year, Wells, she would get married to Valentino member Cecile Romack. Now with Romack, the couple will have 3 kids together. Atco Records will pair producer Carl Davis up with Wells, and they will begin to work on the single Dear Lover. This song had reached number 51 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts and number 6 on the Billboard R&B charts. Now, Wells, she had faced the same problems with Atco Records, the same problems that she had faced at Fox. In 1968, Wells, she would leave Atco Records and sign to Julie B Records. And in 1970, she would leave Julie Lee Records and sign to Reprise Records. In 4 years, Wells, she was part of 4 record labels. You see, the problem was not Wells. The problem was that Wells just needed to find the right producer that will fit her voice perfectly. So in 1974, she decided to retire and focus on raising her family. Wells and Romack's relationship began to fail, personally and business, as she felt that he had held her career back. The marriage lasted for 11 years before the duo would divorce. Mary, she would begin having a relationship with Cecile's brother Curtis. When the family had found out, this had drove the family apart.
We got along very good, like, brother and sister. People were used to us being around each other that way. You're out in each other's face and one day you start kissing. You know what I'm saying?
If you're into a marriage, a lot of years that's not working, and somebody that's always there with their hands out for friendship, you're gonna put your hand out for them.
Everybody basically blamed Mary. I try to tell the rest of the family that it takes 2, You can't just say it's her fault. What about her brother?
Now, when the world had found out about the relationship, this was the breaking moment that caused Mary to attempt suicide. Following this, she would be in a coma for 3 days.
I happened to be the person to find her after she had passed out. I'm not sure why she did that. I just knew that she was very upset.
I tried to kill myself. Cecil was suffering. Curtis was suffering. I just could not deal with it. When I took those pills, I just wanted relief.
She refused to let her husband take her home, which had been at her side for the whole time. And she wanted her brother-in-law to come and pick her up, which was now her new lover.
The couple of Curtis and Mary will bring in a baby girl. Now, side note, doing my research for this video, I come to find out that the Womack family tree is kind of confusing. But anyway, it was reportedly that Curtis was abusive to Mary as well as introducing her to drugs.
Started taking drugs. I was about 33 years old. I snorted, and it relieved me of every bit of pain I ever felt. It made me relax.
When her and Cecil was together, she was more domesticated. And then when she got with me, she was more her own person, making her own decisions.
He beat me more than once. 2 black eyes, a puffed up nose, and my gaps knocked out, my lips swollen.
You didn't start no stuff with Mary. You didn't start no stuff with Mary. You'll be fighting her to make sure she didn't, really mess you up.
In 1977, she would make a return to music. CBS urban president Lockton Arnold, he had experience working with former Motown artists and he felt that he could help her. He offered her a contract with Epic Records. Now, when she first came to Epic, her sound was too much R&B love type. And during this time, it's the 80s and the sound was more up-tempo and disco began to rise. So in 1981, Mary she would get back on the charts with the song Gigolo. This song had reached number 2 on the US Billboard Disco charts, number 13 on the US Billboard Hot Dance charts, and number 69 on the Billboard R&B charts. This song had came with very positive reviews, and it gave Wells motivation to continue to sing. And in 1983, she had left Epic and continued to tour independently, where she had saw major success, especially with the Hispanic community. On April 21st, 1984, on an episode of America Top 40, it was reported that Wells was trying to start up a hot dog chain. Now to me, it looks like that she was trying to expand beyond music. Now Mary, she was known to be a chain smoker, reportedly smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. In 1990, she noticed that she wasn't going to be able to perform to her full capacity, even at times whispering her songs. That same year, she would go ahead and go to the doctors to see what was going on, and it was here when she was diagnosed with throat cancer. Now the doctors, they wanted to remove her vocal cords to treat it, but she refused. And after 6 weeks of chemotherapy, it left her voice not being able to speak higher than a whisper, causing Wells to retire from music for good. With Wells not being able to sing anymore, the money had stopped coming in, and everything that she already had went to her medical bills. And since she had no insurance, it got to the point where she was forced to sell her house. Now word had gotten out about Mary's situation, and many musicians had helped raise over $100,000 for Mary's medical bills, like Diana Ross, Mary Wilson, The Temptations, Donnie Warwick, and Aretha Franklin, to name a few. Her cancer went into remission and her health began to get so much better. In 1991, she would file a lawsuit against Motown for royalties that she never got. Motown would settle out of court at an undisclosed amount. That same year, she would testify for the funding for cancer research. And by the summer of 1991, Wells' cancer returned. The cancer was spread to her lungs as she had never stopped smoking cigarettes. The summer of 1992, she was rushed to the hospital for pneumonia. After so many unsuccessful treatments, This had weakened her immune system, and on July 26, 1992, she would pass away at the age of 49. In 1989, Wells, she was given one of the first Pioneers Awards, and in 2006, she was inducted into the Michigan Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame, along with being eligible for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, even being nominated in 1986 and 1987. To me, I felt like her career was taken away from her. I also felt like that she was being blackballed for leaving Motown. Mary Wells, she deserves so much respect. She's the first lady of Motown, and she played a huge role in what made Motown so popular. No matter what Miss Wells went through in life, she always had a smile on her face.